What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the bakery for another Muffin Made production here. Looking ahead, I have a couple Damascus custom orders on my books, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to take you through how I go about forging out my Damascus billets. This video in particular is going to be showcasing just random pattern Damascus, which is probably the most basic form of Damascus you can make. We're just going to get a nice layer count going. Everyone has their personal preference, but I'm going to try and get us between 75 and 100 or so layers. That's kind of my sweet spot. So how we're going to go about doing that is alternating two different types of steel in a stack. And I've gathered that right here. I got 1075 high carbon steel, and we're going to alternate that with layers of 15 and 20 steel. You don't necessarily have to, but just to ensure our best case scenario here going forward, I'm going to get this cleaned up, and we're going to cut it into smaller sections and get a stack going, and I'll take it from there. Alright guys, this is where we're at. I went ahead and cut up each type of steel into 12 4-inch long pieces and laid them out here in separate order here. And this is basically what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be alternating each type of steel in a stack, and we're going to weld that up solid. Just a little pro tip here too. I usually buy the steel in two different thicknesses for each type. It's just a easy way to keep them separate until you want to alternate the layers. Sometimes you can really get lost in this stuff. So let's keep going. We're going to get this welded up. Okay, quick look at our initial billet here. We got 24 layers all welded up and ready to go. Time to fire up the forge and get started. Alright, so the 24 layer billet that we're starting out with is probably 5 or 6 inches thick and weighs somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds. So the initial heat in the forge is going to be a nice 15-minute soak or so. We really want to make sure that that good forge welding heat has made its way completely through the billet. And then our first 3 passes or so on the press are going to be just nice little love taps to ensure a good initial forge weld. And then probably by the 3rd pass or so, once we're confident in our initial weld, we're going to switch back and forth between drawing it out on the press and hammer and just give that billet lots of loving. So let's get to it. so what started out as 24 4-inch long individual pieces has now been forged out into one solid 24 layer billet. She's about 18 inches long and about a ½ inch thick. So what I went ahead and did is took up some measurements to break it down evenly again. We're going to lose about 1 inch on either side as like end cuts and just not trustworthy material. And we're going to clean up each of these 4-inch pieces on the surface grinder and get them restacked up and forge it out again. Alrighty, so here we are with our restack here. We got 4 pieces at 24 layers each. So for all of you doing the math, it's going to give us 96 layers total for our final billet. It's not looking like much right now, but it's time to get it back in the fire and get squishy with it. Alright guys, so we went ahead and drew out our restack and finished up with a nice 96 layer billet of Damascus. I went ahead and cut off both end cuts of sacrificial steel on either end, and I cleaned up one end and have it sitting in the acid etching right now. So let's take a look at our pattern. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this video. So what started out as 24 individual pieces of 2 different types of steel has now been drawn out into one solid piece, then cut and restacked into a new billet, or folded 4 times for all you samurai warriors out there, and drawn out into a final billet of 96 layers in total. Our final billet finished up at about 15 inches long, about 3 inches wide, and about 1/4 inch thick. That's more than enough material to cut up into smaller pieces and forge out something to shape, or also big enough to cut out something you might like to clean up and still maintain that pretty pattern. I hope I did a good job laying out the Damascus process in this video for you. As my channel progresses, I'm definitely going to include more how-tos on different types of Damascus. Once you forge weld 2 different types of steel together and it becomes one solid piece, you can really do just about anything with it. And there are tons of makers out there who do so. This is your friendly neighborhood reminder to also stay creepy with it out there. Be sure to like this video, let me know in the comments how I'm doing, and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for the next video.